what do you think about just kind of everything that's been happening? I mean, you know, we're back in school shooter season, and just in time, of course, there's a new shooting that happens today.
Mm-hmm.
Just an awful thing, you know. It's never. I mean, I don't know, man. Like I've watched enough and I've read enough and seen enough of the stuff leaked online of, like, you know, the kid who does a school shooting at his high school or on a college campus.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. Like, you're tired of girls bullying you and telling you you're small and you're never going to have sex with them. Or you're tired of these dudes who are harassing you, calling you it, and, you know, just making your life a living hell.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like the only way to get back at them is like an absolute insane amount of just evil violence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, I can get that, but dude, I just never understand the mindset behind killing kids, dude. Like, behind these people who go and commit these shootings. And this was a 28-year-old woman.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is going to have a different take on that of, like, you know, someone's going to come around and be like, don't dead name her.
Mm-hmm.
Don't dead name him.
Right.
He identified as a man.
Right.
And, like, it's just going to be like, how tone deaf do you have to be, you know, to be defending that thing that went in and killed these children. And I don't know, you know, these things always come out and, like, we always, you know, well, hopefully we hear more on the story and we get more information. Like, I know some people are really anti-divulging the manifesto.
Right.
But I think that's, like, some of the times I think that's the best thing you can do is reveal, like, the headspace these people are at and, like, help understand the warning signs of, like, things they're saying, things they're thinking, themes they're writing about, like, patterns in their language.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can recognize it and hopefully, you know, alert authorities, alert someone to help them, or, you know, get them in a position, in a place where they can't do violence.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have so many opinions, but I kind of am just wondering, like, what are your thoughts on it right now with, you know, as we're kind of going back into that. And this isn't going to be the last one, you know, we're going to have several more, I'm sure, this year that are going to be just awful things. Again, like, not even people, like, going after coworkers that wronged them, but I think, like, as usual, a couple more people going after, like, little kids.
Yeah. This one, I was listening to some news reporters talk about this stuff today. And while I was hearing them talk, I was like, man, I think that I just didn't want to hear, like, any analysis on this. Like, it was so fresh. This happened it was about 12 hours ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like, the lines are already starting to get drawn. The solutions are already starting to get, like, proposed.
Yep.
And I think that it's clearly, like, a somewhat, like, uniquely American thing. Now it does like, these things do happen in other parts of the world, but I'd say for the most part, this specific type of, like, lone gunmen going after, like, innocent people with no, like, not a peer group, and, like, innocent people with no defense, like, and kind of for no sensible reason, I think is, like,
that we
uniquely
see
American.
so far.
You know, like,
you know what
like, if you're going, like, hey, more people die getting shot in Africa for sure, but, like, that's because, and one, Africa is a huge place, but two, being like, you know, I can understand a radical Islamic group of young dudes
going to a hotel in Nairobi.
or even, like, going to, I'm not saying I understand it.
You're not justifying it.
I'm not justifying it,
Yeah.
but I understand, like, you know, an Islamist group, like, going to a Christian orphanage in Africa somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, and these things happening but there's some sort of obviously misled mission behind kind of the thought process and stuff there, and it's evil. It's all evil. It's all bad. But this uniquely American problem where we've started to, and not even started it, it's here now. It's here. The question is it here to stay? And if so, if it's not here to stay, how do we get rid of it? And if it is here to stay, then like, how do we deal with it? You know, and how do we live with it? And it has changed for me. My opinions about how I think things should be dealt with and stuff like haven't changed. But what has changed is like my anxiety level around what it looks like to now have like, I have one child who's 2 years out from like kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
I have another kid who's 4 years out from kindergarten. So it's like, okay, like this is becoming what could be my reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's no longer a theoretical thing of how to deal with it. It's becoming an actual possible outcome. So now how do I actually deal with the world that we live in?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're going to see a huge uptick in like homeschool curriculum. Like even like trying to find someone who at that kindergarten preschool level can just come to your house and teach your kids the early education things they need to know. And then parents get together to help their kids socialize and interact and, you know, things that they're supervising, that they're present for. I do not see schools succeeding in the long term if like things don't radically change.
Yeah.
I mean, and we were talking about this before the podcast, but like every video I was watching about this shooting, the majority of the comments, rather than this time, the majority of the comments being political, majority of the comments were just people who I assume were parents saying, I just don't feel safe with my kid in school anymore. I feel ashamed that this country spends so much money on other stuff and they're not spending that money on like securing our schools, making our schools a safer place. And I think it's like becoming beyond bipartisan now. Like I don't think I'm really hearing as much loud protests or unified protests against like having armed staff in schools. Like it just doesn't seem like there's that many people who are really passionate about like not having an armed, trained person on hand at all times. And it's like, I'll tell you this, one thing I've noticed, I was helping somebody look for jobs recently. I've noticed a trend of public postings for groundskeeping in our area, right? In Colorado, of people who will be armed on school campuses and they'll be doing like groundskeeping or coaching or maintenance jobs, right? But they're supposed to be there as like full-time armed personnel ready in case of an emergency because so many of these like police departments now have removed their resource officers. Like resource officers aren't nearly as common as they used to be. So, yeah, I just feel like education is going to have to change, man. Like everything, they're going to have to adapt real quick, or otherwise we're just going to see like a wave of kids raised at home, learning online or learning with an instructor in the house,
which comes with its own like downfalls too. Like,
it's not a good solution,
but it's like, and because it depends on your, you know, I've had a number of homeschooled friends. Some of them like very well educated, went to very good colleges. Others of them like they could literally barely spell. Yeah, and I'm a bad speller, but I mean, I'm talking like would literally spell words like they were texting on an old flip phone. Yeah, and because their mom was just like would grade their papers. Yeah, like, yeah, you're good. You know, like that's fine. And it was just like that did not help you.
Mm-mm.
Now, it can go either way. So it depends. And so,
yes, I mean, yeah, I don't really believe in parents being the educators.
right.
Like, I think I've never seen that work out well. Not saying it can't, but I've just never seen. I know exactly what you're talking about too. Like, I had homeschool kid friends who were doing like an online curriculum, where they had an instructor come in and teach them and their sibling stuff, give them assignments, grade their stuff. And then I had the friends who were being homeschooled by their mom and dad. And a lot of those kids who were homeschooled by mom and dad definitely were lacking in a lot of skills. I was thinking about this in the oddity of this specific case, you know, a female shooter, female trans shooter who identifies as male. Probably the first time this has happened.
Right.
Our first school shooting with something like this, right? And it made me really think, like, we are seeing before us the complicated playing out of John Calhoun's Rat Utopia. Like, we are in that right now. And we're seeing the self-grooming stress habits of constant fixed on themselves image, and then like the violence that comes out of that, of like all of our needs being met beyond what we have, or beyond like our basic survival needs. And so we have to create new needs. We have to create new issues. And with those new issues, we have to create new ways of satisfying them and meeting them. And I think we're just like finding like the fallout in a complex society of when you reach the peak, there's only one way to go, and it's downhill. And I think that's why we don't see it anywhere else, right? Like, I think we don't see it anywhere else because nowhere else is as, I would say, I think a lot of places are still in their rising action. Like, they haven't reached the climax yet. I think America's reached the climax, you know? And this is like kind of echoing some of the other things we've watched. I know from like people we watch on like other podcasts and stuff, but like Norway's never been the superpower of the world.
Right.
England, it was a superpower at one point. It climaxed and it had a huge fall from grace. And now it's kind of small and isolated, right?
And one thing about that is, even at that point in time, the richest, the richest class in that society still didn't eat as good as we do as you know, middle class.
And it wasn't as like universal, like it wasn't like that society didn't have universally great living standards for everybody.
Right.
It was still just like an elite few had great living standards.
Right. Like, I can push a button on my phone and almost anything I want will show up between 10 minutes from now to like 2 weeks from now. Whether that's a sub sandwich or a new phone charger or a video game.
5 pounds of spices.
Yeah.
That would have cost tens of people. Yeah. Like, it would have cost the lives of many men to get you that much spice back in the day.
Exactly. Yeah, just spice alone, or a vehicle. Yeah. I can literally order a vehicle right now that will show up at my doorstep in a few days. Yeah. And so like, we have, I do think about the, like in the Hunger Games books.
Never read them, but okay.
The,
Smoke break. Hey, Ken, it's Mick, and I've got something important to talk about. We all hope we never find ourselves in a self-defense situation, but life's unpredictable. Enter the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer, an actual credible law firm you can put on retainer for your self-defense needs. For just $35 a month, you get national coverage in all 50 states for criminal and civil legal representation in self-defense situations. complete with a 24/7, 365 toll-free emergency line. That's real legal support when you need it most. What's in the package? Bail bonds, scene cleanup, firearm replacement, even mental health counseling. Plus, 0 fees for a laundry list of defense-related costs like expert witnesses. So support the show and get yourself some peace of mind. Click the link in our show notes or visit our sponsors page to sign up for the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer.
Hey folks, Pat here. If you're like Mick and I, you're a fan of classic tales like Lonesome Dove, Blood Meridian, The Three-Body Problem, and Steinbeck's East of Eden. With Audible, you can dive into these epic stories anytime, anywhere. Sign up for a free month, and your first audiobook is on the house. To start your free trial and support our show, click the link in the show notes or swing by the sponsors page on our website.
Want an awesome website for your podcast? Check out Podpage. We use it for the Mick Pat show, and it's a game changer. Set it up in minutes, no coding needed. Support the show by using our link to get started. Your podcast deserves a home as great as ours. Podpage, the one-stop solution.
You know, it's turned into basically a very class system.
Yeah.
And the big groups they live at the Capitol.
Yep.
And they're like just fully engrossed in themselves and their physical image.
Mm-hmm.
They go to these parties where they like literally like eat until they have to puke, and they have like a puke place, so they go like throw up so they can just like eat more. And they kind of transform and disfigure their bodies to look whatever's the newest, hippest way.
Mm-hmm.
And like just anything and everything that is pleasurable, they engage with it. And obviously the authors, one, playing into like what they maybe see in high society of America, but two, it's just like is also like telling and should be a warning to like, where are we now? Like, and even since those books came out, whatever, like 10 years ago, down the line now, we're even much more in this place of like, where we are like the capital of this, this just every urge and everything should just needs to be met immediately. And every urge is acceptable.
Yeah. Every urge is okay. Everything. I mean, we've gotten to the point where like, we can meet every desire and urge and emotion you have, but it is so hollow.
Yeah.
You know, like there's nothing I think more hollow than like pornography.
Mm-hmm.
Like something that's literally designed to take place with the other piece of the puzzle, right? Like men and women are literally designed to fit together to complete those urges and desires and emotions. And whether you want to say it's created like by a creator designed or just evolutionary designed, like we as beings exist in a way that those urges are to be satisfied with a partner.
Yeah.
And pornography just makes it the most soulless and like detached and individual event and experience. And like I think like, you know, people love to joke about like post nut partum.
Oh yeah.
like here's the thing, bro, like I genuinely believe now, like as an adult looking back on like the emptiness and hollowness that you'll feel after watching pornography is literally just the like you can't explain it until I think you get a little bit older, until you've had like sexual experiences with a partner and you know how that can feel. And like even then it could feel like shit, especially like when it's not with someone and there's missing emotion, missing commitment. But then like when you have that moment and it's like safe and secure and there's trust and there's peace, there's not confusion, there's not doubt, there's not what I'm trying to think of, the term for lack of security, insecurities, I guess, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Once you experience that, you really realize like, oh, that feeling that I have, like that I've experienced when you are alone and you're sexual, like you deal with those urges, that feeling is literally the most like, I think primal understanding of like, I just did something that is literally designed for two people to do by myself. I'm alone and I'm lonely.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like I'm lonely and I'm pathetic. And I feel like we're at a place now where like we can immediately gratify that to the point where like you can do it as much as you want with these urges. Like no matter how often you have them and how often you want to have them, you can always immediately satisfy them. And the moment you start feeling alone, or the moment you start feeling sad or depressed or insecure about it, you can just go and immediately look for satisfaction and a distraction and something else. And I think what we're starting to see is just like the collapse of that, like the collapse of like the need to sit and isolate, like sit in isolation and process, like sit and have to be alone with yourself and really work through things.
Yeah.
And really like struggle. And I think we're starting to get to like, I think like violence like this, like the stabbings on these buses, the shootings, I think they're a result of someone who thinks like there's an easier, faster resolution to my problem, and it's doing this act of violence. You know, it's pouring my energy into this because this will resolve my frustration. This will, rather than like, or maybe I need to commit to the next 1 to 10 years of therapy.
Right.
And maybe I need to accept that I f***ed up. Maybe I need to accept, I mean, this is going to be controversial, man. But maybe I need to accept that, like, I made some incorrect choices medically. And now I got to accept that, like, there's some irreversible consequences.
Right.
And I think that's something that we have only begun to see. But, like, there's already stuff I'm seeing of, like, people who have been doing the transition surgeries, performing them. And they're already, like, coming out as, like, dude, this is not good. I messed up, and I wish I could undo it because I wish someone had told me this is an instant gratification that will not actually solve what you're going through. Like this is just something that you're gonna feel like resolves it temporarily because it will wear off, and you're gonna realize you're still the same person with the same issues.
Yeah, it's the same thing my father-in-law says about tattoos. He's like,
oh yeah,
he says it's a permanent result for a temporary feeling.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
yeah,
that's what it is. And
I mean, I always heard
that's
that
just talking about ink.
I was going to say, I've always heard that used about like premarital sex.
Oh yeah.
Like I just always heard like people be like, look, man, like, you know, not even like exactly father figures, but just older men trying to like impart some wisdom. Like, look, there's going to be times when you think it makes all the sense in the world. And you're going to think there's not any consequences. Just get naked and do the dang thing. And like, but if she gets pregnant, man, that is a permanent result.
Oh yeah.
Like a permanent consequence to a temporary moment of like desire. And like an abortion is permanent.
Yeah.
And a life coming into this world is permanent. Like both of those things are going to exist for all of time.
Yep.
And is it worth your temporary need to satisfy this urge? Maybe not. Maybe have some, you know, practice self-control, discipline, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you heard it about tattoos, because I always heard about it just like, dude, it's not worth having sex right now.
And I mean, our grandparents like just rolling over, like just be like, you know, we're not talking about tattoos anymore. We're talking about chopping our genitals off.
Yeah.
That is
we're not talking about chopping our genitals off. We're talking about chopping our kids' genitals off.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's coming out too, is there's adults who are coming to this realization who had this stuff done when they were adults, and now they are like, man, I messed up. And there's also kids who are getting this done who are becoming adults who are saying, I messed up.
Or my parents messed up. You know, my parents should not have allowed this. My parents should have not endorsed this.
Right.
And I think, like, dude, I think it's gonna be a huge follow. And it's weird though, because it's like some of the world's waking up to it. Like, I was reading an article today about this woman who was at the peak of her league in cycling. She just got beat out by a guy who was like just
some
would never win and everything, but because like he's something like in his 50s or late 40s. He had boobs put on. You know, surgically got, you know, what the mammogram, not a mammogram, but I can't remember it's a mamma something, and it's the surgery where they put boobs on. Then there's the inverse of it called mamma, whatever.
A mastectomy.
Mastectomy, yeah, for taking them off. And it was just shocking because you could clearly tell this guy would never be anything in like the men's league of cycling, but he comes in and in like just a couple of years has become like the best in the league, dominating it. Oddly enough, I think his last name is Thomas. I keep on saying he and his because it's a dude. It's a dude cycling. It's a dude that's cycling, and everyone wants to pretend it's a woman.
And I think he still has his junk. Because if you look at him in his racing shorts, dude, it's like, that's a dude.
But the image that just broke me, man, was this woman crying, sobbing into the arms of, I think it was her husband, or just, it looked like it was a guy that was holding her. And she's just crying because she lost. Like, it's over, dude. Like, and it's her whole life.
Yeah.
Working to be the best at this. And like, she's in her 40s and she's not going to get any better.
Right.
And she said she's retiring. She's quitting. Yeah. And she's like taking a stand. She's like, I won't perform in this. I won't compete in this because it's ridiculous. And it's not the Olympics, but it's like another league, competitive league. And I want to say it's like the swimming league. Something came out that just pretty much said like biological males can no longer compete with females. And like they just took a firm stance on it. I think it's in Europe. Like it's like a European swimming league. It's not the it's like the next best thing under the Olympics, right? And like everyone's losing their shit over it. And a lot of other people are like, finally, dude, we're having some common sense here.
And some just, just some I want to say some balls, but I think that women have big balls too these days. And I think women are brave, sometimes braver than men. But so I just think people got to have some bravery to just come out and just.
This is horse shit.
Yeah. And hey, listen, you might lose your job. You might get a brick thrown through your window.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're in those positions, you cannot compromise.
Yeah.
And maybe it's easier said than done, but like, just like stop bending over to some of this ridiculous stuff. That is, especially as the simplest ones are the sports stuff. Listen, just make it. It's like make a trans league, and all three of those people can go, play hula hoop together.
Dude, I would love nothing. Dude, I'm telling you, a trans boxing league would be so successful.
Yeah, it would.
Like literally, just get trans men and trans women and tell them they can all box in the same league.
Yeah,
but you have to be trans to box in this league. And then we have our biological males and biological female leagues. I'm telling you, bro, it would not be long before everyone's watching the trans league just to watch
instead of WrestleMania.
You're like, dude, I mean, it'd just be the wackiest thing, dude. You know what I mean? It'd be so wacky.
Oh
it'd be beyond entertaining, right? But like, I think like too, like, I don't know, like. Let's wake up here. Let's like wake up and just accept that like feminism is dead and dying. Like I just saw a video of this Dylan Mulvaney who there's a lot of stuff out there of people who are like kind of obsessing over him and obsessing over him because they hate him and they want to prove how fake he is and how much of an attention like grabber he is, and he's really only doing this trans thing to get attention and media clout. And there's people obsessing over him because they're like, she totally embodies what a woman really is, right? That's the whole idea. But there's this clip where Dylan Mulvaney, who's a trans woman, is on the Drew Barrymore show talking about how he doesn't feel like a woman all the time and he's still struggling with anxiety and self-image and feeling like an imposter. And Drew Barrymore gets out of her chair, gets on her knees before this man pretending to be a woman, and reaffirms how great and how awesome of a woman she is, and her identity. And it's just like this image, man. I can't get this image out of my head of like a man pretending to be a woman has now got the full support and drive of the feminist movement. Like this is their messiah.
Yeah.
This is who this is like the person on their flag today. And I'm just like, you're eating yourself. This is an Ouroboros. Your tail's in your mouth.
Yeah, dude. It's
like wake up.
It's like Dave Chappelle. He's talking about one of his specials. He's talking about, he's like, I think it's Dave Chappelle, but he's just talking about Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah.
He's like, he was a woman for only a year and he already won Woman of the Year. He's like, you guys should be pissed about that.
Why none of you pissed?
Yeah, he was only a woman for 1 year and he's already better than all the rest of you guys at it.
And like, dude, you could tell like there are women cackling, there are dudes cackling. Then there are some women who are real pissed about that. And you know why you're mad about it? Because it's real, dude. It's real and it's true and you know it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other one that's just crazy to me, I was watching a video on it where this like, I don't recommend this YouTube channel. It's called Whatever, or it's like the show's called Whatever, and it's on this YouTube channel where this one guy named Brian is usually interviewing some it's almost always like a panel of very secular party girls, usually with a couple girls who do OnlyFans or porn, a couple girls who are like just social media stars, and a couple girls who are just from like a local college campus. And then he usually has one or two other people on the panel who I think they're usually supposed to be like the counter voice of like reason and logic.
They're like a mom, or they're like educated.
Yeah, but sometimes they're just absolute like. He had one dude on, and I was like, dude, this guy's just an absolute like not a great example of a good dude.
Oh,
like this dude is just like kind of like. This is the dude who every woman is warned about. Like, this guy's just going to you and not want to take care of the kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not going to wear a condom either. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like one of those things where I was like, what? Why'd you bring this guy on? This is not a good dude to bring on to talk to these women. But the one I watched, that one I turned off pretty quick, right? I just realized like, oh, the majorities aren't like this other one.
Right.
But the one I really enjoyed is where he had this African-American woman who's very like well-educated, incredibly successful software engineer. She really strikes me as a woman who probably is pulling in like, over 200K a year.
Mm-hmm.
And she's former military. And then the other guest was a Catholic girl. They joked about her, called her the Virgin Mary because her name's Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And she's never had any sexual relationships. She's only ever had one boyfriend, and they're dating with the intent of getting married. And she's saving herself for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other girls, like two of them are some TikTok and Instagram girls who do a lot of kind of scantily clad, not entirely nude, but pretty damn naked stuff on TikTok, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then another girl was like just doing social media. Another girl was OnlyFans and brought two of her own pocket on and to, advertise and sell. Yeah. And then another girl was OnlyFans and doing porn, but she was engaged. She's engaged to be married. And then the other chick was a college student in business.
Mm-hmm.
And Virgin Mary and this other woman, gosh, I wish I could remember her name, but it's just like no one gave her a nickname, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't remember her name. But Virgin Mary and this chick were just laying into these women of how they are so asshat backwards on feminism.
Oh, yeah.
And if they really gave a shit about women and making a better world for their daughters and kids one day, they would stop like just not valuing their bodies.
Yeah, just objectifying it, using it for gain.
Yeah. And like all these like these women's argument was like essentially like, well, if men are going to sexualize me, I might as well make money off of it. Mm-hmm. Because they're going to sexualize me anyway, and they're going to want to objectify and fantasize and misuse my body anyway, so why not make some money off of like monetizing that and kind of getting my skin out of it. And it's like isn't like, and like, this is the argument that the other two made was like, feminism has done everything we can to give you equal opportunity so you can work in these career fields that have predominantly only been career fields that men work in. And we've done so much to break in and give you the opportunity to make money doing a respectable career, a career that your children will look at and idolize you for. They will see how intelligent and how much you've contributed to society. These roles as engineers and, you know, business women who literally are managing Fortune 500 companies. And like these girls, like all their arguments were like, that's just a lot more work for something that doesn't pay as easily as just literally taking pictures of me sucking dick. And it is insane because it's just like, it's the absolute undoing of everything women have done, because it was, you know, for the longest time, women felt like, I don't get to make the money. If I'm going to make money, I have to do it as a whore. Or I work at home and I stay at home, and, you know, in really shitty situations, they're just a sexual object for their husbands. Right. And to move beyond that, to be in a world where women are like, there's more women who are millionaires now than there've ever been in history, right? There's more wealth distributed across the genders than there's ever been in history. Like, we're actually seeing, you know, briefly, it seems like it's a very short-lived thing here, but we're seeing women outside of the sex industry have insane financial success. But because of OnlyFans and social media, it's dying before it even gets started. You know, the amount of women who like are making $400K running a business versus the amount of women who are making $400K on OnlyFans, it's insane. I mean, like it's the ratio is ridiculous. And it's just like, these women have been arguing, you know, like, why would you do this after all we fought for? What are you going to do? I mean, they asked the great question, like, what are you going to do when your kid's at school and they're being told to kill themselves because everyone else can just pull up a video of you yourself? They can pull up a video of like 4 guys running a train on you. What are you going to do when they talk about it to your kid and say, your mom was doing this while engaged to your father before they got married?
Or like, what does that do to your own kid's psyche if they see that stuff?
Like, ruin? I can't imagine. I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
mean,
it would melt me. Dude.
You'd have no soul. You'd have no, like, I mean, well, think about like, who is it? I mean, like, is it Ted Bundy, whose like mom was a prostitute?
Yeah.
He like grew up
Something
like
like
listening
that.
to her, like having sex all the time, you know, whatever, like serial killers and stuff. Serial killers typically are exposed to weird sexual stuff at an early age, and lots of times
usually through mom,
and usually through their moms being abused. And so it's like, what, and the internet's permanent. Just like we said earlier about a tattoo. It's like this temporary solution.
Well, dude, and that's what they're talking about. They're like, you do understand that you may be at best, for like these women around the table, one of them was 18.
Yeah.
Like, at best, with all of your money, you might have 30 years of using your body like this before you're old news. Like, they were talking about, you know, porn stars in the industry and how long, and like this lady was really trying to make a case. She's like, no, there's porn stars that are like in their 50s that are still like successful. And it's like, how many? Right. How many girls did porn in their 20s and are still able to make big money,
especially
in their 50s doing sex stuff? Especially
from just a straight business analysis on this would be extreme market saturation. As well as supply and demand and accessibility. Meaning, like, all these products are actually free. If you have a phone in your pocket, these products are actually free. Even the exclusive ones eventually become free. And because somebody takes that stuff from you and leaks it out there. So that's a whole. So, but from a straight business analysis thing, it's not going to work. You know, like eventually you're gonna be old news. This stuff's gonna change.
Well, and they're like, and that was like a thing, like they're saying, is like the internet's forever, and eventually, like, you're gonna realize like you did this for money now, and that's not gonna last forever. That money's not gonna last. Your body's not gonna last, but these videos will. And like, dude, Pat, what would have happened to you, let's say in middle school? And I'm being optimistic here because I do think in the future kids are going to get bullied like this in elementary school. Let's say in middle school, did you have a phone in middle school?
Yeah, but it was pretty, it was like I wished I had a Razor flip phone.
Yeah.
Mine was
Let's imagine that you had an iPhone in middle school, like some kids do nowadays.
Right.
And all of a sudden your phone, you pull out your pocket, try to be sneaky, not let the teacher see.
Mm-hmm.
You open it up. Number you don't recognize. It's just sent you a nude.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that it's your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like you recognize her face. And you see
Right.
some dude who is not your dad doing something to her.
Right.
And then it just keeps on going. And it's more numbers and more numbers. And a bunch of people have decided it'd be a funny joke.
Because they found it.
Yeah, to send you
Yeah.
videos
Mm-hmm.
and send you... Dude, think about all the things you've seen, how sexually perverted
Mm-hmm.
guys are.
Mm-hmm.
And like you've seen all the things they do.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine that all happening and being exposed to you in a middle school, and it's your mother they're doing it to.
Right. Yeah, I think that I can't even begin to know how that would affect literally the wiring of my brain.
Dude, I honestly can imagine. I can easily imagine killing myself.
I could imagine.
I could also easily imagine like vehemently hating my mother.
And just at the very least, like your whole reality, especially let's say you didn't even know about this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because I think there's lots of people, this is how it is going to play out for a lot of people is, I mean, they're
You're
kids,
not gonna know about
kids
it for a
turn
while.
18 and they're doing this stuff. All right, mom's 40 now. They
Mhm.
stopped that stuff a long time ago. It comes back up, even if it's something they tried to hide from them or like, whatever, it comes back around. The effects of that. So for a kid who didn't even know that, he just has a normal mom and dad, seemingly whatever,
Mhm.
and has all of a sudden, okay, mom used to, be a porn star or whatever, and get exposed to all this stuff. I think your reality would be broken.
Mhm.
The world in which you have built in your psyche and the world around you and your understanding of everything would be so damaged
Mhm.
that like you're starting a long path in one of two directions, and both of them start going out the same way, and that
Yeah.
is down a deep dark road, and then somewhere down that dark road hopefully you can have a redemption in your life and come back around, or it's going off the other way. Like I don't think there's like a normal middle ground where you
Yeah.
end up like a stable, healthy, normal individual who's just like, yeah, my mom's a porn star, it's whatever.
Dude, there's gonna be groups, man. There's gonna be like anonymous groups for people
Mhm.
whose parents did this stuff.
And there's
And-
going to be groups for these women too.
Oh yeah, and like I just want to make it clear too before I forget to say it. In no way do I condone hating your parents or hating your mom or anything like that.
Mhm.
Like I don't. I'm not a big fan of hating anyone,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't think like I'm not in no way am I saying these women need to be punished. Like
Right, because we're not blaming these people for the lies they're believing either.
Yeah, but there's gonna be consequences.
Yep.
And to think like there won't be, and to treat it so nonchalantly, is like so. It's gonna be so nearsighted in the grand scheme of like your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It tears me apart just thinking about it. Like, I wonder if I'm gonna have to have that kind of conversation with my kid in regards to like they're like, yeah, like these people sent a bunch of videos to my friend,
Mm-hmm.
and his mom did these things, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I wonder if our kids are gonna ask us about it. Like,
Right.
did you ever do this? Did mom ever do this?
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna be like, dude, it's gonna be a whole different conversation that we're gonna have to have
Mhm.
with our kids when this starts happening.
Mm-hmm. And for like these girls who want to leave this, like if they ever decide they want to leave, think about trying to like find an upstanding
Mhm.
husband and have to like tell them about this past, and
Yeah.
and you can be redeemed and you can come back from it, but like you might have to go get your name changed.
Yeah, and I mean, but you can't erase it.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You're gonna have to you might have to go get your name changed so that like you can't get Googled anymore or
Yeah.
whatever. And I think about this, and actually like I've thought about this a lot lately, how we kind of think that like society's on this steady decline, and we were kind of talking about it earlier about like we've reached this pinnacle
Mhm.
for like maybe this like American culture, and we kind of we're hitting this crazy weird debauchery level, I think, in a lot of places that's having a lot of fallout in a lot of different areas. And I think about like actually in Ephesus when Paul came there in the Bible, dude.
Yeah.
There was a temple that was just for orgies.
Yeah.
And for having orgies unto the orgy god.
Yeah.
And like and so for it, those like the world that Paul stepped into was just as applicable to the world we step into today.
Yeah.
So to even like walk into this world and be like, oh, like it's just so far gone now. How's there even any hope or possibility for redemption or like correction in society for these things? It's like, you know, it's not the first time that societies have gone down this path. Now, in the grand scheme of things, Greece, not exactly the same power it once was.
Well, yeah, all those places are gone, right?
Yeah.
Like none of those societies exist today.
They're gone multiple times over.
Yeah, and I think like, you know, I've heard about, I follow a lot of guys who are economists and, you know, political scientists, and they're just like, dude, America is not going to be here. America is going to be like all these other places that eventually are in the history books. And
someday,
like, they're talking about it like in our lifetime.
Right. I mean, yeah, someday
America will be a different, like it'll be a different name for the country.
The square of land that you stand on right now, if you're in America, someday in time, it will not be called that anymore.
Yeah.
And even if it is maybe called that, it won't be the same thing it was.
Yeah. It's sad, but I do agree. Like there is hope. Like it's not hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there is out of this can come a better society that learns from this mistake. And, you know, the cycle will probably repeat itself for as long as, you know, history goes on with humankind. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think like we're at this weird point where like our generation is seeing the downhill, like the actual legitimate, like never has America's military been on this path of like where our military is as weak and fractured as it is with leadership now and disintegrating. And I think like we're seeing something new happen in America that hasn't happened before. And like, yeah, it's been bad in America before. These things have like things like this have occurred in like regards to like global wars and stuff like that. But this is I think this is different this time in regards to like, I don't know if America is going to come out of this being the same, like back on its feet and be like, all right, we're going back up to the top now. Ball's rolling up. Like, I think it's going to have to be a big reset.
There has to be or at least has to be a bottoming out to come back out of. And I agree. And I think as you can see it in all sorts of fronts, in all sorts of areas. And we are, even as we speak right now, history does repeat itself, but also new things happen in history. Yeah. Where like, like from an economical standpoint, like, yeah, we went through a Great Depression. We've gone through, like you're saying, global wars that affect the economy. We've gone through, even like diseases that have swept the nation that affected the country. We've gone through, even in like the late 70s, early 80s, we went through like some gas and fuel crises and energy crisis. Yeah. But right now we're like going through we're starting to go through all those things sort of at the same time, and in a world that is like totally globally connected in ways that it never has been before. Yeah. Yeah. Agree. It's going to be weird, man. It does feel like I'm living in in a pivotal moment in history. You know, it doesn't feel like for the first time in my life, I feel like
this isn't something that has happened before in the history of textbooks.
Mhm.
You know, this is going to be something that is in the textbooks down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, all that said, I'm interested to hear what our, other listeners, our feedback, if there's people that you want us to bring on to talk about this stuff, if this is something you care about and are passionate about and you have your own thoughts, we'd love to hear it. And again, in the mindset of, there's all this stuff that's happening. It's could be pretty stark and gloomy, but there is room for solutions.
Mm-hmm.
There is room for like good and like doing things now that can hopefully either start to correct this course or can be in place for when we do bottom out, like you said, to help rebuild it in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now about like just like who is going to be like when we're 50 and 60, who's going to be the 50 and 60 year olds in charge of this country
Mm-hmm.
that like we grow up with and we've seen rise through the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And what will those leaders be like?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we're gonna see some really radical changes in our like political environment as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
the people who are like the kids who are in school today and like our children, I think are not going to be Republican Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think they're going to have some pretty jumbled party beliefs in politics.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see like new parties coming out of this, like new political groups coming out of it that are going to come into power because they have a lot of momentum and a lot of commonality around it. Like I wouldn't be surprised, like in a like really stark, not knee jerk, but like just harsh reaction if like one day pornography is just outlawed.
Right.
Because of the amount of trauma it's caused on the people.
Almost
who
like how
one day will be
like when it happened with Prohibition.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just, they didn't just outlaw alcohol one day just because it was like, oh, we just want to get rid of this thing. There was like signs of how, like there were people who were fed up with the way that it was affecting households and families and things.
Yep.
And there were political, just like with everything, there was political jockeying, some religious jockeying, but also at the same time there was a lot of people who were just like, we're sick of our men being drunks, and like that sort of thing. And so in the same way, things like that can happen. And like the scary thing is the only way to like outlaw something like that in like this really free society we live in is to like have something really scary and hyper authoritarian and very intrusive into all of your private life to get rid of it. And so we'll see what that looks like. But the world is changing as we speak.
Yeah, it is. All right, Ken. Thanks for joining us on this.
Yeah.
We kind of just rambled and had our soapboxes here, but at the end of the day, in none of this do we condone any violence or any hate towards any particular groups or anything like that. Like this is simply just us being honest about like our concerns. And as Pat said, like no one is beyond redemption. No one is beyond being able to turn this around for themselves, whether they're involved in OnlyFans or whatever. And the best way to do that is to be a kind person to them and offer an alternate opportunity.
And a different way of seeing the world and who they are and that they matter and they do have purpose. And you mentioned earlier the mouse experiment that we talked about a few podcasts ago, and what that boiled down to was a society that had lost all purpose or reason to exist.
Yeah.
And I think that also that's something that we have to find again. And I also was just going to say, we started off talking about a big tragedy that happened today where children and adults lost their lives at the hands of a mentally ill person who had let themselves be totally consumed with hatred. And this is a phrase that people don't like to hear, but our thoughts and our prayers do go out to those families and that community that's affected today. And we do believe in the power of prayer. But we believe in it in a real way, and we don't just extend that in a flippant way.
Yeah.
And so we do want to see change in this world for good, and we do hurt with those people who are affected by that tragedy today.
Yep. All right, Ken. Go out there and be that good. Be the counter to that hate. Again, provide that opportunity for an alternative. Make sure you kind of leave things better than you found it.
Yeah. Till next time. Thanks for tuning in. If you love this episode, drop us a review. If you have qualms or comments, leave us a voicemail on our website. While you're there, check out our latest news, merch, and deals from our sponsors. Till next time, Ken.